happen. Obviously, if it's going to happen to somebody else. But I think this should be looked at as an opportunistic time. This is an opportunistic time to have more opportunities presented to people who never get a chance to reach up and grab the proverbial brass ring. It should be looked at as an opportunity for people to have, a chance to see more stars created. That of a Sin Cara possibly, that of this one or that one. In professional wrestling, there are so many chances to create in the absence of Roman Reigns. And when he returns, I think WWE are just going to kind of pass it off and obviously write a reason into the storylines why Reigns had to show up. But it doesn't shock me. It really doesn't shock me that this happened for Roman Reigns. This is a guy who they tried everything with. They tried to refer to him as the cousin of The Rock. They tried to have him have a feud with the McMahons, which obviously backfired. It got Reigns off the ground a little bit, hyped up for a match between himself and Triple H at WrestleMania. But, I mean, you could put Triple H in the ring against Shawn Michaels, a WrestleMania match from about 10 years ago, and people would have talked about it more than what they would have been talking about Roman Reigns and Triple H. They weren't talking about that match enough, and obviously just one match between Reigns and Triple H was really where the truck stopped. I mean, you could have had a rematch even between Sting and Triple H this year at WrestleMania the year later, and had Sting come back to avenge his loss previously to Triple H, and more people would have been talking about it. Shawn Michaels and Triple H from WrestleMania 20 taking Benoit out of the equation, and more people would have talked about it than ever came out of talking about Triple H and Roman Reigns. The thing about Reigns is just not a popular wrestler. He's obviously someone who isn't over, and if there was a name and a face ever of WWE, it obviously was John Cena. And to try to take John Cena out of being the name and the face of WWE, you couldn't have done it at a more worse time. To choose this time to take Cena out of the top position in WWE and have him not chasing after a 16th championship, which he should be doing at this point in his career after giving us 15 years. I respect how they're slowing it down with John Cena, but is this really the right time and or circumstances that we are faced with to see Cena be slowing it down when we have names like Reigns on top of the WWE? It doesn't need to be happening because Reigns is just not over, and it's going to be a long time before we see Reigns over. If there ever was a time when Reigns was over, it was when he was a part of the Shield and he was dominating, and he wasn't on the microphone as much as with Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose. Here you have a character like Seth Rollins who is paid to get on our nerves, and Seth Rollins obviously did his job very well because he did what his purpose was. He fulfilled that purpose of getting on our nerves. And you had Dean Ambrose, who represented the Joker character from the Dark Knight movie, Heath Ledger, who Dean Ambrose reminds me of. Jerry the King Lawler really hit the nail on the head when he referred to Dean Ambrose being so much like Heath Ledger and the Joker character from the Dark Knight movie series from 2008 through 2012. I think you had so many far more creative and far more entertaining wrestlers in the Shield. And the funny thing was, so many people had this theory on how Reigns was going to be the man in WWE, the breakout star of the Shield. And it turned out to be the other way around. We had Seth Rollins become the breakout star of the Shield. Then Dean Ambrose became the breakout star of the Shield. It was long before realized when that happened, before Reigns was ever given the chance to be WWE champion a number of times in his career. I know things with Reigns seemed rushed, obviously, because of Seth Rollins' injury. He went down after a 200-plus day reign as champion, and it seemed like they really rushed Reigns into the main event because they had nobody else at that point in time to substitute for Seth Rollins because of the injury. So they had Roman Reigns come in, and obviously they rushed his first championship reign. But the thing about Reigns was there was nothing really ever entertaining happening for this guy. And, for every single person who believed in Roman Reigns, I respect that because it creates diversity in professional wrestling. But the thing is, I think that this is getting old. I think this whole idea of Reigns being the man, I think this whole idea of us believing and Roman Reigns should be put behind us, getting behind a superstar like Bo Dallas or getting behind somebody like an Adam Rose or the Social Outcasts. I think that's really where our time should be. Names like the New Day, names like Sin Cara, that's where our time should be put. More of an opportunistic time is upon us, and we just shouldn't be talking about Reigns as much as what we had, because this is an issue that I think I can get away with saying that is really overrated. This is an issue that's been talked about way too much. It's definitely been overkilled ever since the end of last year. It is the midway point of 2016. Let's get on with something new in professional wrestling. Obviously, the time for Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins is now, and this is not the time to be talking about Roman Reigns. I respect the fans out there who love Roman Reigns, who think Roman Reigns should be put over and given the benefit of the doubt more than what he has been in recent months. But the thing is, Reigns obviously was punished for a reason, and he has to put up with his punishment, whether it be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a 4-time suspension, and then fired. I think that, this is the first strike we've seen for Reigns, and we've proven out in time if we'll see a second, a third, or a fourth strike, which will result in his firing. It has happened before in the past, but I have reason to believe that Reigns will clean up his act, and we haven't seen the last of him. Like I said, this has really become an everyday occurrence with professional wrestling and sports entertainers. It seems like every couple of months we're reading about how this one or that one was fired because of failing a drug test, because of some unprofessionalism that may have been exemplified on their part. I know Billy Gunn had something similar happen to him. He was a trainer for WWE. He made a scouted appearance at some house shows and special events, and then they let him go because of some unprofessionalism that he may have exemplified a number of months ago. So this is not something that's happening, so rarely. If this was happening rarely, I can understand why people would be so shocked about hearing about a firing of that of Roman Reigns or a suspension of this guy or that guy. But it's happening so often that we're just kind of, passing it off. Okay, another firing, another suspension, whatever the case or circumstance may have been. It's really an everyday occurrence, and I think that fans just shouldn't be so distraught. I know the fans out there, the significant portion of you who are Reigns fans out there, obviously are distraught about this because Roman Reigns, this happened for Reigns when he was on top of the mountain in WWE. He was on top of his game. He was the man in WWE. He was deemed the man, the name and the face of the WWE, and you don't really want to have this happen to your top guy in the industry. But the best thing about this, the best part of all of this is the fact that we will see a new champion, a new star created, and we'll see more potential shining through, reaching up and grabbing that proverbial brass ring that they've never been given the chance to reach up and grab before, whether it be the time for Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, that remains to be seen, whether this triple threat match between all three Shield members will get over with professional wrestling fans and be, appropriate for the storylines, that remains to be seen. A lot of questions still have to be answered about this and that of the future of Roman Reigns, because nobody knows at the end of the day. We're just drawing conclusions that don't necessarily need to be drawn about the future of Roman Reigns. But here's the thing, the future is uncertain for Reigns right now, but I don't think we've seen the last of Roman Reigns. I said this about Randy Orton. I've been saying this about John Cena for months now in their absences. They were coming up on time off from professional wrestling. They were given long overdue time off, and I think that, we should have more respect for what they're doing in professional wrestling. And at the end of the day, I think WWE are not at fault here, and they've handled the situation more than professionally. They've gone beyond handling this situation than more than just being professional. This is something that had to be done to really, let Roman Reigns know that we're not going to let you get away with this a second or a third time. Whether he suffers from a second or a third or a fourth, resulting in his firing, suspension, remains to be seen. But, at the end of the day, I don't think we've seen the last of Roman Reigns. And if there's anything that we should believe in, as Roman Reigns likes to profess, it's that we haven't seen the last of Roman Reigns. And I think that our questions will have answers, but it's going to take some time. After 30 days, what the future of Reigns has in store, I really don't know. But I'm excited to see what that future is, because Reigns obviously was on top as a two-time champion. He could be a third or a fourth-time champion 4 or 5 years from now. But you can expect to see him on the back burner as of right now. Seth or Dean seem to be the ones who will get over in this triple threat match. They're at least still advertising him for Battleground, so that's a bit of a glimmer of hope for the Reigns fans out there who, again, I know exist. But in time, our questions will be answered. The future of Reigns is very uncertain right now, very gloomy, very cloudy right now, but I think that our questions will have answers. And if there's something we should be believing in, it is that. I'm your host, Jonathan Clarke, and I will talk to you again next week.
Like what you hear? Tell us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.